So to implement MTSS and to scale, there are several critical ingredients that we have to address first. And through my experience, I'm going to just sort of walk through those recommendations. And one of the things that we have to really think about is sustaining an infrastructure plan. So what does that actually look like for, say, a SEA or district or school? So with an SEA, or should I say a State Department of Education, we have looked at how we can actually build our systems. And the first thing that we did was stop functioning in silos. So the silos was a huge issue because we were having great impact with our districts. However, we did not know what the left hand and the right hand was doing. And so when we decided to actually have a cross-divisional crosswalk of all of our activities, all of our programs, all of our grants, we came to the conclusion that we can actually, one, better support our districts, but moreover, we found out that they were overwhelmed with so many different program activities. So we had to really have a conversation internally about how do we actually set up systems so that one, they work well, but number two, actually being able to sort of pull out the minutia that actually happens within the context of building a system. So the first thing is that I looked at the Hexagon Tool, and I recommend that to everyone. The Hexagon Tool is very simple. It actually looks at the fit. So we look at the data and say, okay, what is it that we actually want to accomplish here? What do we need? And the data actually tells the story. But moreover with that is that we actually looked at what is our mission, what is our vision, what is our ethos? So what is it that we actually value? The next thing is that we looked at readiness. So in readiness, it's much more than just saying, okay, we're going to get this program and we're going to roll it out. It's actually looking at what do we already have? What are our priorities? Do we have the capacity already in our systems? If not, then how do we gain that capacity? And that includes those resources. So let's talk about resources for a second. So we can talk about funding, because funding is really important. But I think that if we look at our allocation around personnel and also looking at what we have and then identifying those gaps, we will actually be able to institute a better systems approach. The next thing is building that capacity and sustainability, which is this question I think is really surrounded by. And building that capacity, we have to have some indicators of measure. So, how do we know that we're doing a really good job? And in the State Department, we have to be more reflective and really look at ourselves and say, you know what? You need to actually be able to measure your success. So what are we going to look at when we look at districts and schools? And then that information comes back, that will be our measure or indicators. The next thing that we also recommend, or that we found out too, is that we have to, when we talk to districts and superintendents of schools, that we have to understand what their mission is. What is it that they want? What are their priorities? What does their school improvement, district improvement plans look like? And what we found by having those conversations, we found more of a commitment and consensus around the direction that they want to go. And that's imperative because now they're on board to sort of send that trajectory to their staff of what direction we really are going to go into. The next thing that we found, and I recommend, is that when we had these conversations with superintendents, they had their own philosophy and belief. And we had to understand how we can build that into our structures and understand that when we're having these conversations, that's how they identify. So when we are looking at all their priorities, all of their activities and initiatives, and we're putting them together, we have to understand their philosophy so that we can do better alignment, better integration, and also know that threshold of when they're going to move on to tier 2 and tier 3. So what are those decision makers as far as making those changes? The other thing that we found out too, working with school districts, is that the evaluation tool, and I'm not talking about evaluation that we look at, like how we are assessing and evaluating and getting that feedback loop, but we're also talking about, is this aligned to the teacher evaluation system and the support services evaluation system? We have these district goals, we have these priorities. What are our individual goals in our schools? And that's imperative because, again, they are in the trenches and they're making the decisions. So with that said, having the evaluation tool, having the data, action planning, and being able to monitor our progress, now we are developing a sustainability model.